Welcome to the Mind Your Business Show. I'm your host, Tony Calloway, your private money godfather, and AirBnB. We've all heard of it. Many of you have stayed in them. We want you to own 1, 2, 3, a whole bunch of them. We got an expert today who's going to tell you exactly how to do it. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Mind Your Business Show. I'm your host, Tony Calloway, your private money godfather. And as I told you, we got an Airbnb expert here. We got Robert Kohler with RKE Enterprises. And this guy is the wizard, the master, the guy who knows everything there is to know about Airbnb. And so today, we want to get more people into this space because as we talk about real estate investing and things like that, there are statistics that say that this is a growing trend that's not going anywhere. And so we want Robert to share his knowledge and expertise with you. So Rob, glad to have you here with us in the Mind Your Business Show.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
All right, man. Well, let's just kind of start where it makes sense to start for me. What got you into doing short-term rentals with Airbnb?
Funny enough, I wanted to put a pool house in my backyard and I didn't want to pay for it.
Okay.
So I reached out to some hosts in Columbus and they kind of put me onto the idea of actually being able to purchase a home, completely furnish it, rent it out on Airbnb and it positively cash flow and pay for said pool house. They said, hey, don't put one in your backyard. I have one. You're not going to like the fact that it never is ever vacant and you'll never want to stop the positive cash flow. So you'll always have someone in your backyard. So they encouraged me not to do it, to go out and buy a freestanding home, furnish it, and make money that way. And after about a year of market research, I did just that, and one led to another, and here I'm at 17.
Man, that is fantastic. Well, we all start somewhere. We all start for a reason. So with that being the beginnings, now let me ask you this question. Had you ever had just a regular, long-term rental property in the past?
Not once.
Not once. Okay.
Never
so
have I had one. Never will I own one.
So this is the sum of your experience. Well, and that's one of the reasons why, because I have clients with the private money syndicate, in fact, I'd have to say most started with the traditional rental, but quite a few of them have added some short-term rentals with Airbnb to their portfolio. And then now, because of some of the things I'll talk about in a little bit, there are more people just looking at that, as is your case, as their investment model for real estate. So, well, let's get back into your story again. So that's how you got started. You mentioned that you have 17 properties now. So share with the viewers, what are the advantages that you're experiencing? Because I know people with traditional rentals. What are some of the advantages that you're experiencing here as a Airbnb?
Let me go back. I didn't mean to bash long term. I had a buddy who that's all he had in his portfolio. He's recently sold them, and they did well by him, right? If you manage that properly, that's a feasible route to go. But to answer your question, it was faster scaling for me.
Okay.
For how long it took him to build his empire of long-term rentals, I was interested in scaling faster. So you just get more positive cash flow. On the average, his long-term rentals, what I gleaned from him was, hey, you're making somewhere between $150 to $250 a month max in positive cash flow after all debt service. I don't invest in an STR unless it's at least $1,000 per month positive cash flow. So that's a factor of 10.
All costs.
That's after all debt service. So obviously you have that larger cash flow. You can roll your profits into another home faster than you can long term, at least in my experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's decreased deferred maintenance because I'm having cleaning crews in there every single week, if not multiple times a week, and they're saying, hey, the toilet's running or the sink is leaking, and they let me know, and I can actually address that and maintain my property quicker. Where you have a long-term renter, they sometimes don't want to be bothered. They don't want a crew in there fixing anything, right? And they just let it go, especially since it's not them that has to pay for the repair once you move out.
That's true.
Decreased deferred maintenance was a huge one for me. I already hit on larger positive cash flow. And what I really like, when you get to about 4 or 5 properties, or at least 4 or 5 doors, you have daily deposits every day.
Wow.
I exclusively use Airbnb. So literally every single day they will ACH money into your account. As you know, from a business owner, from an operational standpoint, that helps when every single day
That's right.
you have cash depositing in your operational
Regular recurring cash flow. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, in as much as you guys can tell that Rob is sold on Airbnb, what has been your experience? I mean, from get people inside the story of your experience as I don't know if you call them Airbnbers or something like that, but as an Airbnb operator, some of the things that you've experienced, and if there's any, salt and pepper that we put on there, the goods, if there's any bads or anything like that, because I want people to really have an understanding, if they choose to go this route, what they can expect. So if there are any little known facts or things to be aware of or prepare for, if you would.
Sure, absolutely. It's not all just unicorns and rainbows, right? There are some negative, but I think there's obviously far more pros than cons. Otherwise, I wouldn't be operating Airbnbs. One of the negatives that I found is that people can be unreasonable. Mm-hmm. And you do have the rare occasion where somebody will damage your property. The nice thing is that Airbnb has what's called AirCloud, where they have their own insurance policy, where they want you coming to their policy before you go to yours or before you come out of pocket.
Okay.
So you're you mitigate your losses that way a lot. That would be, I think, the biggest thing is damage and problematic guests, though they're less than 1% of the total guest experience.
Okay.
What hosts can realize, or what they will realize. So that's not even really a common experience. The other thing is, it is more work, right? It is more day-to-day work than if you put somebody in a long-term rental, you set it and forget it, to use an old info commercial term from years back. It's not as hands-off, at least until you automate everything. And once you get to about 5 to 7 doors, there's some automation that you can do to be more semi-passive.
Okay. Well, when you mentioned automation, before we came on camera on that point of automation, you were saying that you were showing me your phone in terms of how little time you spend on a daily basis. So what are some of the tools of automation that someone would be able to utilize in supporting their operations? Yeah,
there are all kinds of great third-party applications out there that you can get, but I have to kind of dote on Airbnb again. They've really brought a lot of that in to their platform, where you can send automated messages on checkout, on check-in, on inquiries, on checkout. I probably communicate with less than 1 out of 10 guests that come to check in, because as they look at my home, I have an inquiry message that goes, hey, thanks for looking at my home. If you're interested, just a little blurb on me.
Right.
Also, as they book, and there's a confirmation that they've reserved, it goes, hey, thank you for booking my home. You're going to get the Wi-Fi code, the code to the keypad to check in, and all the other instructions 3 hours in advance of check-in. And then what happens is 3 hours before check-in, they go, here's the Wi-Fi code, here's the keypad, here's everything you need to know about the area, here's some great restaurants, right? And so they think I'm responding to them. I say again at the end, thank you for choosing my home. Then about halfway through their stay, I go, hey, if you need anything, let me know, towels, turn-down service. And then the day before checkout, I have an automated message. Mind you, this is all on Airbnb's platform. It goes, thank you for staying. I give them a once-over about, I hope you can leave me a 5-star review. If not, and all my returning guests, I give a 10% discount to, so kind of give them the warm fuzzies upon checkout and let them know, hey, checkout time is 10 a.m. If you have any issues with that, please let me know. So all those automation tools are available through Airbnb's website at no charge to you. So it'd be crazy not to use them.
Well, I mean, obviously, they make it, because the environment and the brand Airbnb, everybody who participates in it and uses those platforms benefits from that. So, I mean, it's them making an investment back into you. You're providing the facility, so to speak, and they're creating all the market and infrastructure. And with that point, I do want to say that that's why you need to get in contact with us at the Private Money Syndicate, where we will power your dreams with private money, because we realize that everybody has a dream, and most people have the dream of going into real estate investing, and today's show is to help you to understand how Airbnb is a model that you, as a real estate investor, can use to help to grow your wealth and expand your portfolio. So now, Rob, let's talk about your portfolio and expanding your wealth. You mentioned scaling, so you said you're at 17
Correct.
units now, and you also mentioned that you had helped some other people to acquire some units. Talk about the remote management side of things, since you've got some folks, as you were telling me, who've done that, and to the extent that you're able to grow rapidly, get us inside where the cash flow model has facilitated growth over what period of time?
Absolutely. So I've helped 13 people to date get into Airbnbs, their first one, and most of them multiples as well. Most of them have 2 within 12 months of getting involved. Certainly, of course, a lot of that starts with coming to see you and getting financed, because you have some of the best finance people and money out there, especially for STRs. And you've helped several of my friends, so I thank you for that. But yeah, remote management works. I have several of my friends, because I'm from Detroit, Michigan originally, that I've helped get into the industry and who are living and working in Michigan and operating an Airbnb here. And that's something that we can show anybody how to do.
Right, yeah.
Remotely manage your property. You don't have to be on site. You don't have to be able to put hands on it or be within 20 minutes drive time of it. There are facilities and resources you can put in place, like me, to go ahead and handle all of your properties and anything that comes up. You just sit there and receive ACHs in your checking.
Man, that's fantastic. Now, from the standpoint, let's talk about markets. What advice would you give as far as markets that people will look at? I know when I was doing some research in preparation for the show, they say the biggest markets are the major metros in the U.S. There's Miami and Las Vegas and New York and L.A. I was surprised that, at least in that list, Atlanta wasn't on there. I'm sure Atlanta's a big one too. But to the extent that, here in Columbus, Georgia, where we are, it's not. It was interesting whenever I say I'm from Georgia. Oh, you're from Atlanta, and I jokingly say, I said only half the people in Georgia live in Atlanta. I live in the other half. But anyway, to the point, markets. What are some factors if someone's going to look at investing in their own backyard? Some things that would make it a good idea, or maybe not so good. And if they're looking for somewhere remotely, as you just discussed, as an opportunity, what are some things that would make a wise local wise choice of where to make those investments?
Yes, those metropolitan markets are great, right? Because your market is larger. However, I like niche markets like Columbus. I can speak to 2 niche markets.
Okay.
Albany, Georgia, and Columbus, Georgia. Here in Columbus, we have Fort Benning, right? We also have really warm weather all year round, which brings all kinds of things like softball tournaments year round, basketball tournaments. So that's played indoor. Football, flag football. We have the little big Grand Canyon here, right? But mainly Fort Benning draws hundreds of thousands of people across the United States to come to Columbus. So that's really a niche market. Keeps my occupancy above 90%, which is unheard of. Albany is the same way, and they have other factors that I can speak to it probably on another show.
Okay.
But I encourage you to look at a niche market, because those big guys like Miami, Atlanta, San Francisco, Chicago, those are shark-infested waters. I don't want to swim in those. There are already thousands and thousands of people competing for that same market share that you are, where not so much here. Columbus is still underserved. Demand still outpaces supply. There is still not enough supply here in Columbus and in Albany, Georgia. So you can guarantee that if you put one online, your occupancy is going to be well over 70 to 80% just doing the minimum. Wow.
And to that point, I did some research, and they say that the average Airbnb occupancy was around, on average was 21%. You're at 90.
Yeah, and I think that's a low figure. I think you get a lot of snowbirds that come down for the winter, and they Airbnb out their home for the summers, right?
Yeah.
So that really skews occupancy numbers, because anybody I've helped never drops a percentage below 50.
Yeah. In fact, when you said that, you just reminded me the statistics also said that 60% of Airbnb is people renting out their homes when they're not there, or renting out rooms in their homes if they have, like you mentioned, the pool house or something like that. So
that skews the numbers. If you put up a home and you open up 365 days a year here in Columbus, you're not going to be below 55 to 60% unless you're doing something grossly inappropriate.
That is unreal. All right, so now let's quickly compare the average income of a long-term rental owner. Let's just say some of my properties, I mean, the ones that perform best are like $300-ish positive cash flow. And again, that's taking out taxes and insurance and stuff like that. Now, I don't have some of the other costs that we'll talk about in a second of owning and operating an Airbnb, but let's contrast that with your experience as a short-term rental operator. What kind of, positive cash flow are you pocketing at the end of a month?
Bare minimum $1,000 a month.
Christ.
I don't even consider the investment unless it's at least $1,000. My best do $1,500 to $1,800 a month. When we talk about a holiday month or some of the big summer months,
right,
it even does better. And that's after all debt service. That's not just my mortgage. That's including taxes, insurance, or what we call PITI. That's all utilities, because as you know, you're responsible for utilities when you own an Airbnb, right? That's paying off all secondary financing if you financed your furniture or anything of that nature. It's all wraparound and secondary financing.
Man.
So that's everything. That's after all debt service.
All right, folks, you heard it. In excess of $1,000, and if Rob's your coach, you ain't going below $1,000. You know, Rob, I have this thing that I tell my real estate investor clients. I say I have 0% infant mortality.
That's right.
We're not going to have anybody failing because
Correct.
they just don't know how to pick the deal, don't know how to get the financing right. But I just want you to think about it. If you were to choose to get to this space and be able to have a $1,000 per month positive cash flow, it'll definitely allow you to grow your acquisition, your portfolio, and things more rapidly. And I think the point that you brought up about choosing a niche makes a lot of sense because, kind of subconsciously people reflexively think go to where the vacationers go, where everybody wants to come, be in the big city life. But, like I said, where the opportunity is and the competition isn't, and a city like Columbus, and there are plenty of others around the country, I'm sure, have some unique qualities. All right, so now another distinction with the Airbnb space is now when I have a property that I'm going to rent out to somebody, they got to bring their own furniture, their own pots and pans and dishes and towels and sheets. But now with Airbnb, you're basically creating that home environment that they come into where all those things are there. In fact, I was talking to my son. He uses Airbnbs exclusively when he travels abroad as well as here domestically. He says people like it because there's a kitchen. You can, if you're going to stay somewhere for a while, instead of spending, $50, $60 a meal, you go to the grocery store and you feed your family or just yourself in those comfortable settings that are created by the host. So the statistic I read, we talked about a little bit, was like on average about $25,000 to outfit an entire house. But how about talking about what you've done, how you've done it, and then we'll talk about a few strategies that can reduce the upfront investment on that.
Certainly. Well, the way I've reduced the upfront investment on that is come to talk to somebody like you that has all those wraparound finance companies or that secondary financing where I don't have to outlay that cash.
Okay.
But I have outlaid that cash, and I do it for less than $25,000, considerably less.
Okay.
There are several retailers here in town that I like to use that have incredible products and incredible prices, and we'll share those resources, with your clientele. But that is considerably less. And you can also rent. You can rent your goods, right? Like we discussed, so that when it's time to refresh, it's easy to swap that out. So you don't have that whole upfront investment. You can pay a monthly fee to rent those goods, and then swap them out when they get a little bit of wear on them. Because as you know, pictures sell online, and also having a very nice, very comfortable stay is supremely important. Otherwise, you won't have return guests. You'll get negative reviews, which will then precipitate folks not staying at your place if it's not impeccable, right? So it's critical to keep your Airbnb looking real fresh, real nice.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the things you do in your units that create the superior experience, besides the nice furnishings and things? Are there any, tricks of the trade that you employ?
I think number one is a good cleaning crew, and those are resources that we have to share with folks, right? You have to walk in, it has to sparkle, and it has to smell really good, and there cannot be any hint of it not being supremely clean at all times. Okay. So that would be number one. I think number two would be have comfortable beds. Right? Okay. So obviously everybody wants a good night's sleep. And number three, I think, is on those beds, comfortable linens. So those would be my top three.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Now, again, we want to encourage everybody to get in contact with us at the Private Money Syndicate. You can go to privatemoneysyndicate.com, or you can call us at 706-888-3719 to schedule a consultation with Rob the Man Kohler, who is here to help you to get into the Airbnb space. Because, my thing is that, everybody can go and make all the mistakes. I always say you're going to pay for education. You're either going to pay for it through mistakes, or you're going to pay somebody who's got the scars to show, who's been there, done that, and who can help you to get it right the first time. And not only get it right, but get it most profitable. Because again, his expertise, his knowledge and experience is what you are able to bring into your relationship as an Airbnb host. And he's your partner. He's here to help you to succeed with the success that he's had. And he's actually shown others how to do it, as he was just discussing. All right, now, let's look into, over the horizon. I want to ask you to use your crystal ball, being that Airbnb, we were saying in North America, which is U.S. and Canada, the rate of growth from 2019 through 2021 in the year was 280%. Now, in the middle of that was the pandemic, and globally, in fact, our camera guy was saying that Turkey, he sees opportunities for Airbnb, but it was 350+%. So it's growing. So what's your perspective on, say, the next 3 to 5 years? Because people we're talking to who may want to get into it, that's their upfront time horizon.
So obviously I'm biased because I have all my eggs in this basket. So I believe that it's going to continue to grow, and I'm going to tell you that it's a bull market, right? That it's strong. However, I can say through a global pandemic that I was up 18%.
Wow.
I did not take a single dip. I did not lose money. I did not go into the red on any of my properties. They all stayed incredibly profitable, and actually I grew throughout 2020, 2021. 2022 is now slated to be my best year. I had my 2 best months in the last 5 years in May, this past May, and this past September. Wow. So based on all the information I see, super strong.
Man, that's fantastic. The last thing I want to bring up is that short-term real estate financing has traditionally been difficult because the metrics are so radically different than long-term rentals.
Impossible before you, Tony. Impossible, as a matter of fact.
Thank you, Rob. And we do have access to some resources for those who are looking to do acquisitions focused on Airbnb-type properties, short-term rentals, as well as another thing that is unique is that, okay, you have properties and you have equity. And to the extent that the math that most lenders use in determining the refinance or cash out refis has made it somewhat difficult for people who have short-term rentals because the traditional lenders don't look at the cash flow model the same. They want to see leases. You don't have leases
right.
with Airbnb.
Correct.
So we have resources that can help you to capture some of the value out of your properties based more on the cash flow of the property than based on accumulating equity, which means you can actually get cash, not have a lien on the property. So if you decide to sell it or anything like that, you still have all that equity in place, but you're able to take cash up front and go buy another one and another one. Just think, Rob, if you were able to, get some of the money that, we were just talking about, you being able to access some of the cash flow you have now, you would have exploded well beyond the numbers that you have.
And I wouldn't have struggled. I wouldn't have brought on so much consumer debt, mm-hmm. right, and blown my debt to income ratio out of the water if I would have had you from the very beginning. So I thank you for that. Absolutely. That has been my primary struggle, mm-hmm. or was my primary struggle, was paying off, using my good credit
right.
to basically fund my business venture,
yes.
right, which banks and traditional lenders don't understand. They just go, hey, why do you have so much debt? And I go, well, look, I have this successful business over here. They go, I don't care. You've personally guaranteed that.
Yeah.
Why do you have so much debt? They don't care. They think you're out there taking grand vacations, and that's why you ran up that credit card debt. Where if you have traditional I shouldn't even say traditional because yours are non-traditional. You have commercial lenders that will give you a business line of credit,
yeah.
or commercial terms, you can save yourself that pain by coming to you.
Exactly. Wow. Well, folks, we encourage you to get in contact with us because you want to speak to this guy. I mean, he's got me excited. My next acquisition is going to be an Airbnb.
All right.
And he's going to be my coach, okay? But get in contact with us at privatemoneysyndicate.com. That's privatemoneysyndicate.com. Or you can call us at 706-888-3719, and we'll set you up with a one-on-one with Rob. And so, again, for those of you who are looking to, in fact, Rob, before I go, you were mentioning one of your friends who's a successful executive who's looking to retire himself with his Airbnb holdings. Just talk about that for a second, because that's a mentality. I don't care if you're 60, wanting to set yourself up for retirement, or 25, wanting to set yourself up for retirement, with the capital resources and the guidance that we can help you prepare to do that in a very short period of time. So tell that story real quick, please.
One of my best friends from Michigan is working at Pfizer, and he wants to get out of the corporate world. And he said, hey, show me how you do what you do. And of course, he knows Parkinson's law, right? However long you give a task to take is exactly how long it will take. He set a time frame, a number that he wants, and he's going after it. And I mean, he's got a very, very good position with Pfizer and makes great money and wants to get out of the 9-to-5 rat race,
right,
because he knows that even STRs, are semi-passive income where you won't spend an hour a day once you get everything down right. It'll free him up to hang out with his family, spend the time that he wants with them, do the things he wants to do, give him that passive income that he needs.
Man. All right, so he's talking to you, we're talking to you, and we appreciate the fact you tuned in to the Mind Your Business show. Now, if you have any ideas for any of our future episodes, we encourage you to get in contact with us. You can contact me at Tony@privatemoneygodfather.com, or you can go to our website, privatemoneysyndicate.com, and tell us what you want to hear about, and we'll try to take care of those in our future episodes. Rob, appreciate you being on the show again today, and we're going to have some people talking to you. And as I always say, if you're going to go in business and stay in business, you've got to mind your business. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.